from paycheck. Welcome to the next stop on your journey from paycheck to pension. If you're ready to take your finances to the next level, you're in the right place. It's time to take control of your future, starting now, and we're doing it live. Hi, we're the Stidhams, and our goal is to help you get self-directed. It's the tax-free income that will shape your legacy. It's wealth, time, and the freedom you deserve. What you're about to learn will enable you to make confident and strategic moves. It means gaining complete control to invest in what you want when you want. We've helped thousands of people just like you. And if they can do it, you can too. So we hope you're ready, because it's about time that your money started working for you. And we're so excited that you chose us to show you how.
Starting right now.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Tonight is kind of exciting. It's a new thing. We've not seen a father and daughter team before. So this is kind of cool. They teamed up to build a family bank. And how it happened, I think, is even cooler because this wasn't an intentional thing. They didn't come in with this plan, but now they have a plan. And we're about to show you exactly how they built a sizable tax-free income that will for them both for the rest of their lives. So can't beat that. And getting creative in how things are structured is how it's done. So Donnell, is there anything else you want to share?
Well, this is an interesting example because it didn't start out that way, right? It
Yeah.
didn't start out with, hey, there's this opportunity to even focus on anything close to a family bank. It started the way most of my conversations start. I'll call it very linear. Hey, I saw you guys, and this is the thing that I want to try to do, whether that's velocity banking, whether that's a secure compound interest account, whether it's a self-directed IRA or 401k. Hey, I want to learn more about HELOCs, like whatever the one thing is. But as we start peeling layers back, as we identify what the goal is, as we identify what's at the root behind this ask, other things start to pop out. And as they start to present themselves, the key is to, this is not a one size fits all. I think the reason this is unique is because I don't know some of these questions that I asked this gentleman. I don't really remember it being a subject matter, meaning there was no reason. If you call me saying, hey, I want something, I'm going to help you achieve your goal. And yeah, I'm going to peel back the layers to understand whether or not this goal that you're wanting to achieve is realistic or there's enough criteria there for you to be able to hit this goal. But sometimes I don't go beyond that because that's not why you called. And I think this was somewhat unique is because we kind of stumbled upon this opportunity. So that's why it's kind of fun. So.
Yeah. I like that you brought that up though, because most of the time, the conversations that you're having with people aren't the conversations that they called to have. That's not to say that you won't have the conversations that people want to have when they call you, right?
Right. Why do I want to call him? He's not going to do what I
Right.
asked him to do.
He just said, no, it's not giving what I want it to give. So we're going to have a different conversation. That's not the point. The
Right.
point is in the questions that you ask, I think are most important. What's the goal? Sometimes and we should have an entire live stream just on this question because I think defining your goal is so significant. Tell us in the comments, before you started watching this channel, did you have a different goal in mind?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I think that this is important because like where you're planting your flag or where you think you're going to plant your flag, whatever star you chose, is it your North Star? Maybe it's a South Star. Maybe it's like a little southeast or northeast, northwest. Maybe it's not exactly where you could be going or the best place that you could go, and you just don't know what you don't know. This was the case with this father who called in first, just really more about him, right? Just really more about, hey, look, if I can take care of me, then I know at least can't pour from an empty cup. Got to make sure that I'm taken care of, and then I can focus on. And in the beginning, he didn't even mention his kids. Well, I don't want to ruin it. By the way, I'm over here just telling all the secrets.
But what it reminds me of, though, is because I have a lot of conversations like these, we've got this programming, we've got this conditioning.
Right.
And a lot of my conversations are more around the conditioning than it is an actual goal. Meaning, when you call and say, hey, I want to put myself in a better position to free up more cash flow so I can pay off my home. And I think when you say that to the average person, They go, of course, pay off your home. Like that's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
And when I go, well, why do you want to pay off your home? There's almost like this silence. It's like, wait a minute, I never even thought about why I want to pay off the home. Like that's like it isn't it
Should
obvious? I will no
shouldn't
longer
that
have a mortgage payment. Like
should
that's a
yeah,
dumb thing to ask. Like
right.
but when you start peeling that back, because it catches people off guard, because it's of course this is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
You have to be debt free before you start retirement. That way you can you can actually be okay with receiving less income because you have less bills. And so therefore, because you have less bills, you're in a lower tax bracket. So that 4% rule associated with your retirement account is okay then. Because
Right.
remember, you're debt free. Like that's what's supposed to happen. And when I kind of ask some of these questions as to why, it's almost because it's an awkward silence. It's an awkward like, what do you mean? Why do I want to pay my home off? Like that's what I'm supposed to do. You know.
Yeah. You mean, Donnell, aren't I supposed to want to pay this off? Like that's the point of having 30-year, 15-year, whatever the term was, at some point it's going to be paid off. Uh, there's a percentage that's like well in over 70% of Americans who don't pay off their mortgages because they keep moving. They move so much
Right.
that they always are restarting those mortgages. So essentially they're just like renting from the bank, and it's like rent with equity kind of. Um, but even how people look at those opportunities too, I think are conditioning. So how things are structured and what your opportunities are, the important piece to remember is everybody is different.
Right.
It's not one size fits all. And this is why sometimes it's hard when you're watching videos and you're trying to then go and put your strategy together, realizing what could be possible for you. It's difficult if you aren't aware of something that you're holding, like a piece that you have of your puzzle, right? That could be different than another example that you saw, and why that makes such a big change. And so this is, I think, a really great example because we haven't really showed this type of structure before. So that's the important part. So there's that part, but a whole live stream on what's the goal and how to better define your goal, I do think would be important. Matter of fact, I actually don't think that this should be a live stream. Tell
Hmm.
me what you guys think. I think this should actually be a group stream, like maybe a Zoom or something where other people can chime in and start talking through what their goal was or where they were when they first started their goal or defined their goal, and then where they are and what are those factors that changed that along the way, so that everyone can learn. I would love that. I would love to hear more people's stories and some of that feedback. I know you get to hear it on calls,
Yeah.
all the time. But I think for some people who are just still in the stages where they're like, I actually don't know if I want to call in because I don't want to show somebody like my whole situation. I'm not that comfortable with doing that. That's unfortunate because that little piece that you could be missing that could be so huge, right? That you can't see. That's some of that is unfortunate. However, sometimes we have people who have spent hours and hours watching our stuff. They've been getting educated and they call in and they have got their stuff down. So we know it's possible. We know it's possible to come up with a strong plan just based off of these live streams alone. That has happened. So,
Absolutely. And it reminds me of some of those, I'll call it family Zooms that I've done. Like I've got the mom and dad who are sitting in their living room and watching me on the big screen. And then all of a sudden their kids pop in. I might even have a grandchild or two that pop in on their phones, jumping into the Zoom. And usually there's that oldest child who is used to leading the family and everything, and they start walking me through, what their financial status is and how they plan on hitting their goals. And I start throwing some of these questions that I've already been talking to their parents about. Right? I've already been talking to mom and dad. We've had
right.
individual calls around what their goals are. But when I start hitting their children with this, and I'm talking 35, 38, 42-year-old individuals, it's a pause. Right? It's a whoa, wait a minute. No one has told me that. Why haven't I learned this before? Wait a minute. This sounds too good to be true. Like this must be a scam. What is it you're trying to sell my parents?
Yeah.
right?
Why aren't more people talking about this?
Right.
And
If it was
here's
so great, if
right.
it was so great, it would be everywhere, right? So yeah,
Right.
all of that.
And if it's possible to do them, why aren't the banks telling us we can do this?
Hmm.
That's the question that I hope that everyone will hold on to while we're going through this example this evening. If just because the banks aren't talking about it, just because they didn't say this is what you could do with it, does that mean that you shouldn't?
Right.
And I think we use things in unconventional ways all the time. Ingredients in your kitchen, for instance, there are recipes that have certain ingredients in there. And then if you dig through the comments, like on allrecipes.com, note this down, and you're looking in the comments, you're going to find some of those tweaks that people do and the difference that it makes. Those differences right there are why my cookies around the holidays are addicting.
True
It's the
story.
comments, it's the unconventional things, it's the things that are off the traditional recipes that you get to learn when you go, wow, I had no idea how impactful that would be, but my goodness, is that delicious. And retiring early is scrumptious, okay? Having being financially free is extremely delicious, and we're bringing it back, we're making it a trend, we're normalizing retire early. So if you are on your wealth building journey, you're in the right place. Get in here, share this out, bring your friends. This is where where all the bikes are, guys. We are learning how to become financially free, retire early, align, pick our North Star, and move and get our boats moving faster. So ready to jump in?
Let's do it.
All right, let's learn about this father and daughter who built their family bank. And let me make sure my cool thing is on here before I get all bummed out. And great to see you guys in the chat too. I'm loving reading these comments. I'm trying to read while I'm talking to Donnell. So I'm going to jump in the chat with y'all while he gets started. All right, here we go.
So, and is it we use other names, and I always want to say Cal, but it's actually Kale. So my bad. I'm apologizing before I even start because I was already headed down that path. But the bottom line is, I had a meeting with a client, 60 years old, and in truth, he's not. The play here is purely, I'll call it, um, about after he runs out of retirement dollars, or after it's really more of a legacy play here than it is anything else, meaning he's got decent cash flow, 60 years old, he's already ready for retirement, but he's not there yet. His window, I'll call it, his time horizon is right around 15 years, so 60 to 75. He already has a pension with Ford Motor Company coming, and in addition to that, he has his traditional retirement accounts, 401k, with the company as well. He's going to be fine with Social Security. So income isn't really an issue. He called because he had been watching us, and his objective was, hey, how can I supplement? How can I add to the retirement that I'm going to get? And I'm not greedy. I'm not looking for something, silly. I don't need $300,000 a year in income. Just something modest to be able to put my cash flow away and be able to achieve a decent retirement income while also putting a legacy together for, if I'm no longer here. Meaning, is there a life insurance component to this? So obviously we're talking about a secure compound interest account is where we started. So, and just some of the details around this gentleman is he ultimately has about $1,500 in cash flow right now, meaning after all bills are paid, this is what's left over. And usually when clients talk to me about their cash flow, I ask, what are you doing with it today? Where's that $1,500 in this case? Where's that $1,500 going right now? And that $1,500 was going to, having a good time, sitting in savings. He had a high yield savings account. So it's really not doing anything, I'll call it, that's building for his future. But it wasn't also being eaten up by emergencies, or he was able to quantify this 1,500 and identify where it's going pretty easily. His current house, his mortgage payment on his current home is about $1,200 a month. And the cool part about this was, and I've run into a lot of clients around his age who are in a similar boat, meaning the conditioning. We've been conditioned to focus on paying off our home and trying to have that home paid off by the time we retire. Well, he fits in this bucket. The home is worth about 425. He owes about 57, which ultimately means he's got about $368,000 in equity. So got $1,500 in cash flow, got $368,000 in equity, and he gave us a call. Oh, and so as it relates to that high yield savings account, meaning if he does nothing else but pay off his home in the normal time, how many years would it take for that $1,200 to pay off the remaining balance of his mortgage? And it would take about 4 years, about four years and a few months ultimately. And then that $1,500 that, again, he's been doing a pretty good job of accounting for, and it is growing at a slow rate, again, high yield savings account or whatever the case may be. But if he continues down the path in that same period of time that it would take for him to pay off his home for 4+ years, he would have accrued about $78,000 in cash. Like, nothing wrong with any of that. But what we had kind of discussed was his view on all of this was pretty linear. And I think Angelique kind of frames it up pretty well when she says, "Hey, we've been conditioned to finish your dinner before you have dessert." So it's,
Yep.
I've got my job, and at some point I'm going to have Social Security. I'm going to pay off my home. Once I pay off my home, and now that I'm debt free, I can now focus on putting my money in another vehicle that can help, hopefully, allow me to either build retirement income or at least supplement the retirement income that I have. Like, we've all been conditioned that way, so it's not unusual that this was the view when we initially started talking. Again, very linear.
Well, yeah. Well, just real quick, because this is the part where most people, when they call you and you say, "What's the goal?" their goal is very linear in this way. It's this, then that,
Right.
right? If this, then that.
Right. I need
And
to
so,
free up this cash flow in order to do that. So,
right.
right.
Right. And so if it's whatever the priorities are, we're going to do those things first before we can achieve this goal, and we have to achieve this goal before we can move forward.
Right.
And so those things like savings, saving money, and rainy day funds, or the 529 plan for your kids, and it in the past, I feel like these were the only options that we have. So am I shooting these strategies or these habits down? No, because for a long time this is what most of us knew to do. It's just that we were thinking linearly.
Right.
Is that a word? Linearly?
It is today.
Yep, making it a word. So this is the point though. A lot of us think this way because we think that this is the only option. So I'll land the plane there on that point. But I think for the majority of people, I don't want you to feel like if your goal isn't what's absolutely possible for you, this is why. And that's okay. Yeah,
Right.
we
And again, there's nothing. How about this? If he was to continue down this path, he would be just fine. Like, again, he will have enough income. He will be able to retire comfortably, still take his trips, enjoy his time. There's nothing wrong. As a matter of fact, it speaks to the wealth equation. There's many variables in the wealth equation, but there are many people who are successful and have become millionaires off each individual variable. But
yeah.
when you put those variables together, it just makes it a bit easier. So again, there's nothing wrong with this approach. Go ahead.
He has the pension, he
Right.
has a social security. Not
Right.
everybody has a pension. So when
Right.
you say like he'll be okay, this is a small percentage of people who
Very much so.
qualify like he does. And he's in a totally different league than the majority of people with his age and the systems that he has in place. But he has
Right.
these systems in place because of his age, right? Whereas somebody who's younger than he is probably won't have access to those same amounts. And they're going to be entering in those years during a completely different economy, too. So, something else to keep in mind is like that inflation conversation that we have, which, by the way, I think, if I don't know if he said it on the call or not, but part of this is kind of suggesting that he was like he woke up. He woke up when he was considering, yeah, he'll be okay. To your point, he'll be okay during his retirement. He'll be comfortable. He'll have enough.
Right.
But his daughter will absolutely will not. There is a huge threat or risk to her being able to have enough just
Right.
based off of the inflation rate alone.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So
Jumping in.
she can't be linear
Right.
is the point. Yeah.
No, you got it. You got it. I agree.
Okay, cool. Let's go back.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
All right. So ultimately, he gave me a call, and again, I love these visuals that you put together because I think this is a lot of people. They watched this online, and they came up with this. Whoa, wait a minute, that resonates with me. Hey, is there a way for me to be able to use my cash flow to be able to start my secure compound interest account? Like, is that possible? Is there a way to take this $1,500 a month and put it to work? Again, my time horizon is 15 years. I'm 60 years old. I don't expect to need any of this until for another 15 years. So if I take this $1,500 a month and put it away, could that work for me? And the short answer to that question is absolutely. And we can throw it into the calculator to see what it would look like. But here's the moral of the story: at $1,500 a month, over a 15-year period inside of a secure compound interest account, he would end up with somewhere around $37,260 a year, in addition to all of the other vehicles that he has: his pension, his Social Security, his 401k, all of those other things. So, in addition to that, there would be another 37,000 in income on an annual basis, which there's nothing wrong with that. But then he mentioned on the call, but wait a minute, I've also got this house that, again, I've been conditioned to pay it off. But in watching your videos, what I've learned is, why would I ever pay my home off? Like, what is the value in me paying off my home? And so when he stopped to think about that, he went, I've got well over $330,000 of equity inside my home. Would there be a possibility to leverage some of that equity, dump it into a secure compound interest account, and jumpstart the growth inside of this vehicle to help me a little bit better? Because he wasn't very pleased about the $37,000 a year in income. His goal was somewhere around $5,000 a month. So he said, if I could achieve $5,000 a month in additional income, 60 grand a year, I'd be happy. So in looking at that, okay, so if we were to leverage the home, what would that look like? And so what we're talking about here is we've got this home that has about $368,000 in equity. I just simply grabbed this number. There's really no rhyme or reason why I said, have you thought about, or what if we pay off the home with a second position HELOC? So not a first position, but a second position HELOC, and we pay off the home, and then the difference, the remainder, we get into a secure compound interest account. Meaning, uh, take a second position HELOC of about 110,000, take 57,000 of it and pay off the home, and then the remaining 50 we dump into a secure compound interest account. What would that look like? And again, so if we were to do that, what just happens to the mortgage payment of $1,200 a month? Well, if we pay off the mortgage using the second position HELOC, the mortgage payment has now increased its cash flow to $1,200, but we still have to pay off this $100,000 HELOC. So the thought process was, take the $1,200 that you were putting into your mortgage, take that same $1,200 and now pay off this $110,000 line of credit, but then dump the $50,000 into a secure compound interest account. So, okay, if we were to do that, what does it look like? Again, his objective was, he said he would be happy if he had somewhere around $60,000 a year in income. We're getting pretty dang close. Dumping $50,000 in, and actually, this is assuming 25,000 year one, 25,000 year two, right? Because in a secure compound interest account, the lump sum is split in half. But what if we take that 50,000 all in year one? We would absolutely exceed this number. But taking into consideration 25 year one, 25 year two, on top of that, the $1,500 a month, we're talking about, in 15 years, 55,000 tax free for the rest of your life.
Again, added to everything else that he
added
has.
to everything else that he has. And again, so as we're talking, he has another revelation. And again, this isn't things that I didn't like introduce him to this. It was, wait a minute, why would I only take 110,000 in equity if I have 368 or whatever that number is? He goes, I've got this daughter of mine, and she's been conditioned just like me. And she just recently transitioned her 30-year mortgage to a 15-year mortgage because, based off her conditioning, she's been educated to pay off her home as quickly as possible. Similar to what he's done, right? He only has $57,000 left. So the question was, hey, would there be an opportunity to leverage this equity in my home to maybe create some more of a, I'll call it, family bank structure? Because he referenced the video that we did with the mother and daughter who we were able to get the mother the income she needed and help the daughter retire earlier than 59 and a half by just working together and building a secure compound interest account. So his position was, hey, would it be possible to leverage more of the equity in my home to maybe structure this thing like more of a family bank? Well, in order to do that, obviously I got to peel more layers back, because is it possible? Yeah. But I need to understand more details as it relates to his family. So that's where we started talking about his daughter. And here's the truth. If we're talking about compound cycles, meaning the amount of time it takes for your money to double, his daughter obviously has far more compound cycles than him. And this isn't saying that he won't live past 70. It's a fact. Given his age, he has fewer compound cycles than his daughter. So the fact that he's wanting to put in a lump sum of $50,000 and be aggressive is great. And notice, over a 15-year period, that $55,000 in tax-free income is awesome. But if he were to just take those exact same numbers and put them on his daughter, would this look different? Well, it would look a whole lot different, because she has more time. There's a lower cost of insurance for her. So therefore, the amount of income being able to generate off of her insurability would be awesome. And again, in digging into more of the details around his daughter's name is Kim. She's married to a gentleman by the name of Greg. And again, as I mentioned, they have recently converted their 30-year mortgage into a 15-year mortgage, and they did this before the spike in interest rates. So they actually have, and I think I have, yeah, I do have. They, yeah, it's 3.75% is the interest rate that they currently have on that 15-year mortgage, which is pretty awesome. So they converted the 30-year mortgage over to a 15-year. The payment went up, but that means that they're going to pay off their home faster. So they're comfortably putting away $25,000 a month into this mortgage. And so his question was, hey, it's a $275,000 mortgage amount, meaning the total due on the mortgage, and they're paying $2,500. Is there a way to maybe assist his daughter in paying down or paying off this mortgage while also trying to achieve his goal? And as Angelica mentioned, this is one that I haven't really thought through. I haven't run across this before, so I had to give it some thought, or give it some time to kind of just make sure I understood what was happening here. So again, moral of the story: got a daughter, 35, who has a 15-year mortgage, paying $2,500 a month. And when I say comfortably, this is what they wanted to do. So they aren't paying this $2,500 and it's some dollar amount that they can't afford. They are comfortably paying this $2,500 a month on this $275,000 mortgage. Well, what if? And just looking at simple math. So if this was I think the home was worth, I think it's 425. So dad's original home is worth 425,000. 80% of that 425 is 340K. Meaning, if he was to get a second position HELOC for 80% LTV, which is very reasonable, and based off my understanding of his credit history, meaning he's got $1,500 in cash flow, he has decent income, and all of these other vehicles accessible to him, and all of the equity that he has in his home, the ability for him to qualify for 80% LTV second position HELOC on his home is not a stretch. Now, we are in the process of going through these steps, so he hasn't been qualified as of yet, but I haven't seen anything that would prevent him from being qualified. So my point is, if he was to get an 80% LTV second position HELOC on his primary residence, what would that do? That would add about a $340,000 line of credit. Well, if he added a $340,000 line of credit, he could pay off his home at $57,000 and pay off his daughter's home at $275,000, all with that one line of credit. Oh, and still have $8,000 left over. But my point is, if he were to do this, and again, banks love the fact that you're not hitting their limit. So to go to the bank and say, nah, instead of an 80% LTV. How about we do 77? Yeah. Anyway, bottom line is the likelihood of him getting approved is pretty high. And so if he was to then take that second position HELOC and pay off the primary residence and pay off his daughter's 15-year mortgage, what would that do? Well, there's a few things here, right? And I think actually, before I even go into that, I think one thing I wanted to highlight was looking at the daughter's current situation. So let me come back here for a minute. This 15-year mortgage. If you don't mind, sweetheart, would you slide over to the calculator? Because I just want to highlight the impact of this $25,500 a month that Kim is currently paying on this 15-year mortgage. So the details that I had around the mortgage was this. Hold on. There it is. So she's $275,000 mortgage. The interest rate is about 3.75% for 15 years. I had to kind of doctor some of these numbers to achieve the $2,500 a month payment, but I think I got there. So what I assessed was, okay, how long would it take then? Well, not how long would it take? How much interest would be paid or paid back to the bank if she spent 15 years paying off this home? Well, we're talking total interest, total mortgage payment about $359,000, total out of pocket $438,000 on a home worth $275,000. So she does nothing different. Again, they are comfortably paying this $2,500 a month. She continues comfortably paying this $2,500 a month mortgage. And actually, this is showing it would be less, but bottom line is it's somewhere around $440,000 or more is what she would end up paying on this home that has a $275,000 mortgage. So would it make more sense for dad to leverage his equity to be able to pay off this home and put his daughter in a better position? And again, this is that family bank discussion. This is, instead of thinking singularly like we all think, meaning this is my household and this is what I'm focused on, he had the kind of the wherewithal to say, you know what, with the equity that I have, is there an opportunity to assist my daughter? And so the reason I'm sharing this is, if nothing occurred, if they continue down the path that they're on, his daughter would be just fine. She would have just only spent about $438,000 on a mortgage that's only $275,000. How many of us are currently doing that, right?
Not good.
So as I mentioned, if you slide back over to the other side, sweetheart.
Yep. Well, I got to make sure that it's not a thing. Oh, okay. I'll stay on with you.
No problem. And so, as I mentioned, so if he was to absorb that $275,000 mortgage and pay off his primary residence, we're talking about $332,000 again, which is a realistic dollar amount to receive. And if that were to happen, what happens overall to them both? Well, for him, if he pays off his home, he's going to free up that mortgage payment of $1,200. He already has $1,500 of cash flow that we stepped into this with that. So in total, he's now freed up $2,700 a month in cash flow. Now, it is true, there's a $332,000 first position HELOC that needs to be paid off. So he's not free and clear. He just added debt to his situation. But what did he do for his daughter? Well, for his daughter, he just freed up $2,500 a month. Between these two dollar amounts, what can happen to address this? And this was my thought. And I think there are many different ways to 10.
Can we move?
Go ahead.
Can we move to the big board? Because it's easier for them to see on the full screen. Is that okay?
Whatever my producer wants to do. Didn't even have to ask. You just put it there. So
can you not have it split? Is that?
I need the calculator pretty soon, but that's fine. Again, whatever my producer wants.
No, we're doing what people want.
It's all good. So in essence, we've got this $332,000 first position HELOC that needs to be addressed, but there's $2,700 in cash flow that's been freed up. And in addition, because the primary home has been paid off for Kim and Greg, there's $2,500 of cash flow available. So this was my thought. And again, this is my thought. This is I'll call it my example. This is my opinion. This is no one else's opinion. There are many different ways to get to 10. There are many different ways to accomplish this goal. I would love to hear from you guys. What are some of the different things that could be done here? But this was my first thought.
Okay.
What if we take this $2,500 that Greg and Kim are already comfortable paying, and we take this $2,500 and we simply pay back this HELOC? Meaning, however you want to do it, whether it's transferring $2,500 to dad and then dad paying, how it's done is not my concern here. My thought process is because they're already comfortable doing it and they were already prepared to pay this 15-year mortgage. So for 15 years, they already have a set standard as to what it is they're doing. So you take those 15 years and you dump 15 years of $2,500 back into this HELOC. So the payback of the HELOC is their responsibility. Well, simple math, simple conventional math. If you do $2,500 a month, 25 times 12 times 15 years, if you do that math would not pay off this HELOC. And that's okay. So I want to pause there. I'll address that. But my point is this. The $2,500 that they were already paying is now going to transition from the mortgage, meaning it's not benefiting them, to now transitioning to pay off this HELOC. Well, as we know, as you put money into a HELOC, the balance comes down. And as that balance in the HELOC comes down, what can you do with the difference between the balance and the limit? Well, you can access it. You can do things with it. You can borrow against it. You can pay bills. You can dump it into a secure compound interest account. There's a lot that you can do with that room. But in addition, Greg and Kim has this home that's now been paid off. What can you do with a home that is free and clear? How can they leverage the equity in their own home to do other things? We're not going to address that, but I just want to plant the seed. Meaning there are so many opportunities here because Cal decided to support his daughter and create a machine that would benefit everyone.
Yeah.
And so what does this look like? Well, from a family bank perspective, what we're talking about is the equity in the home plus the growth in a secure compound interest account on Kim, or even a secure compound interest account on Kale, either one. But the room inside of this vehicle plus the cash value generated inside this vehicle now becomes a family bank that allows us to address issues as they come about. If someone needed a roof to be fixed or purchase a vehicle or pay a bill, instead of borrowing from a bank, instead of using a credit card, you have this vehicle that, because some simple decisions were just made differently. Notice, no one's making more money. There's no, I'll call it influx of cash due to some inheritance happening. The money was going to a place initially. All we did was redirect that money and put it somewhere else.
I can hear the comments right now. I can feel what some people are probably feeling at this point right now. The second that you said her house is paid off, like their house is paid off, he's got this HELOC
Debt.
now, this first position HELOC. He almost had this sucker paid off, and now he's way back up, like it's brand new mortgage on it, but maybe even a higher interest rate at this point.
Right.
Who would do that? And then on top of that, what if they don't pay?
Right.
What if they get a divorce?
What if his daughter loses his job? Like there's all sorts of what ifs running around here, right?
What if she's like decides, you know what? I'm out. Like I don't want to pay your thing anymore. I'm going to use, now I have all access to all this cash. What if she's selfish? What if she goes in some sort of raid? What if, and you and I were talking about this before, and this is why I wanted to bring this up. You know, our sidebar conversations while we're getting ready was about, today in particular, was about the emotional processing around an arrangement like this.
Right.
And that's the part that I want to bring up, because if you go back to that, the slide that had, right there, where it says that her house is paid with the houses. Yeah. That one right there. When you were like, and then she gives her money here and his money goes here, right? Yeah. I'm sure that made a lot, if you felt uncomfortable Put it in the chat. If that made you gasp, if you got a little sweat on your brow, if you really were like, when he said that, then I would say you're not wrong to feel that way. But I think seeing in the beginning that she was on a $275,000 mortgage, that she's paying 420 something, 440 something around there, that if that amount of money, that the interest that was being paid to the bank, if his granddaughter could finance her home through the family bank, and let's just say she paid the same amount, whatever the going interest rate was, and that extra $200,000 was going into the family bank, folks, this is the what's up. This is how wealth is created. This is how wealth is secured. These concepts and these ideas have to start seeding and breeding the desire to strengthen relationships, the desire to stay together so that we can build and grow and have a secure future. It doesn't benefit any of us for the family dynamic to be torn apart. And that's really what this is showing, is the power of broken family systems. And I think there's a lot of, this is an onion, so I'm not going to start peeling it off, but that is the conversation you and I were having, and that's why I want to bring it up.
Absolutely, because of what it forces me to do is I got to hold the mirror up. If my brother had just jumped into a 15-year mortgage and I was close to paying off our primary residence, would I go, hey, little brother, let me assist you in this process? Am I confident that my little brother would knock this out? But how do we get to the ultimate goal? How do we get beyond this conditioning? How do we step outside of the box and be able to hit our goals in a more I'll call it efficient fashion if we don't test these waters? It takes trust. It takes a whole lot of trust for the people involved to be able to accomplish a goal like this.
Yeah, Veronica makes a good point. She says that's what contracts are for. And I think I
agree. That's what trusts are for.
Right there. Yeah, that's it. And I think understanding how to structure that, and I love to see more people talking about this. I'm seeing more of it in my feed. I don't know if you guys are, but I do think that that's where this is going to have to start. It'll be normalized at some point. But when you've got a trust that is your great, great, great granddaddy, who you probably don't even know his name, he established this. And as a result, every member of your family had a policy that was placed upon them when they were born. And they already have rules about how, like what access they have or how they can use the family bank. Man, that is a movie I want to see played out in my family. So,
and the thing is, that just means that this process is not linear. It is not one size fits all. It is not, I finish my dinner before I have dessert. It is a lot of moving parts. And it's identifying where the opportunities are within this process to be able to support one another. Where are the win-wins? And can we take advantage of the win-wins through this process? And again, knowing that it's going to take commitment. And the piece that I appreciate is she was already committed. When she signed that contract with the bank on that $2,500 a month on that 15-year mortgage, she was already committed. So she's all in. All we're doing is redirecting that $2,500 to here. Yeah. So instead of it going to the bank and her paying double the interest in that fashion, if this is done right, this second position HELOC on her dad's primary residence would actually be paid off faster. The interest would be lower, and it's a vehicle that you can get money into and out of. And notice, I keep saying 15 year. I think another thing we're going to get in the comments is, wait a minute, this is a home equity line of credit. Spending $2,500 a month on a home equity line of credit for 15 years. Isn't the draw only 10 years?
Like, yeah, that was what that was right? The first thing that I
That's coming, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. This 15-year time horizon doesn't mean the draw period on the 80% LTV second position home equity line of credit is 15 years. The 15 years is based off the time horizon of dad. The draw on the HELOC, there's actually many different draws on HELOCs. You can get a 3-year draw, 5-year draw, 10-year draw, 12-year draw, 15-year draw, 20-year draw. And I was just telling sweetheart, we were just talking about this. There's even a 35-year draw that I ran across.
Tell them where it is, because I like fact check it. It's
Right.
there.
So what I stumbled across it because we were just she had asked me a question about the draw period, and what I learned was at the Bank of Rhode Island, they actually offer a 35% draw, 35%, 35-year draw period on their home equity lines of credit. 35 years for the Bank of Rhode Island.
Yeah.
But it's not offered in every state. Can you guess what state it's offered in? Or what states with an S it's offered in? There's only one.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. So you have to be in Rhode Island in order to take advantage of it. But the bottom line is there are credit unions, there are banks out there that offer more than just that 15-year. And the purpose of this visual is just saying this. This process is not linear. It's not the same for everyone. And it takes some planning to be able to address, but if done properly, everyone can win here. And so in kind of looking at these details, again, the objective was this $2,500 that they're already committed to paying towards the 15-year mortgage. What we're going to do is take this $2,500 over the next 15 years and pay it towards this HELOC. And then over the same 15-year period, his increased cash flow, and if you remember, that increased cash flow looked like this. It was $1,500 that he was in cash flow is what he had. And then there's $1,200 that he was paying in mortgage payment. So that added together gives you the $2,700 that he now has available to be able to put towards another vehicle. So we're going to take this over this same 15-year period, take this $2,700 and get it compounding. Now, again, there's a lot that we are not addressing. There's a lot that we're not talking about. There's a lot that both of these individuals have access to that we are saying nothing about. Meaning, specifically for this group, they have a home that's paid off. What's happening during this period with that home that has a zero balance on it? Like, what are they doing with the fact that, hey, they have, other than taxes and insurance, what are they doing with this equity that they have in this home? Wouldn't it be an opportunity to maybe start a secure compound interest account on Greg? And we didn't talk about grandchildren, but wouldn't it be an opportunity to maybe start a compound interest account on the grandchildren? Meaning there's so many layers here that we're not addressing. So I don't want to lose sight of that. I know that they are there, but as I mentioned earlier, I think there's multiple ways to 10. Yeah, and so we're just focusing on the first part. Go ahead.
This would look like a spider web of information.
Exactly.
If we took off on all of those. However, we also don't know how much they make. We just know the information that was given to us based on, so we don't know their entire profile to know what's possible for them, because the focus was on the dad.
That's it.
On Cal, by the way. Cal. It's not Kale.
Cal.
No.
I'm sorry. I told you. And again, this is why we don't use real names, but sometimes, just is what it is. So there's a choice here. I want to kind of highlight this, and maybe, I'll do this. There's a choice to be made here. Meaning, there's two approaches. What is it, Cal? Cal?
It's Cal.
Like Cal, like Superman.
Like Calgon, take me away.
Cal. All right. So there's a choice here that Cal has. Because again, the original call was, hey, I'm 60 years old. I've got a time horizon of 15 years. I want to put my cash flow towards a secure compound interest account for me to be able to supplement my income. So now he has increased supplemental income of $2,700. He has a choice. He can put that secure compound interest account on himself, or he can put that secure compound interest account on his daughter. And we've already identified the fact that his daughter has way more compound cycles, but what would it look like on him if he was to do that? What would it look like on Kim if he was to do that? And again, he has an option. And I think what we can do, sweetheart, is kind of jump into, or I can put it up here, I guess. Take a look as to what it would look like if we did a secure compound interest account on him versus her. What does that math look like?
Here,
and so, go ahead.
You want me to put you on the half screen?
It is up to you. Again, I'll let my producer do her thing.
All right, I'll put you on there.
I heard you mumbling. What did you say?
I said, hold on, I'll put you on there.
Okay.
Cal.
So
Also, just friendly reminder,
Cal.
it's Cal. Like
Cal.
pal.
Like kale.
Like pal.
Like Cal. Pal.
Like Cal's your pal. His Calvin.
Cal gonna take me away?
Cal gonna take me away.
All right, please. All right. So 60 years old, putting away $2,700 a month. What would this look like? And again, his objective was $60,000 a year, $5,000 a month. So if we were to do this on Cal, that would be about $67,000 tax-free in income. He would have a cash value about $777,000. And as it relates to legacy, he would be purchasing about $486,000 in life insurance. And if something were to happen to him around that age 75 or greater, he would be leaving to his beneficiaries about $1.8 million. Like, again, this is right in his wheelhouse. This is exactly what he asked for. He wanted about $60,000 a year in income. He got 67. In addition, he has liquidity of about 777,000. Now, I want to remind everyone of something. If Kim puts away $25,000 a month towards the HELOC, then the HELOC will not be paid off. So let's address that as well. So this is on Cal, $60,000. I'll get to Kim, but I want to first highlight what is that $2,500 a month doing inside of the HELOC. Yeah. So for this, the balance, I guess I can make it bigger. Can I make this bigger? I can't. So the balance on the home equity line of credit, again, started with $332,000. The interest rate on that second position HELOC is 7.38%. So let's talk about it. She had a 15-year mortgage at 3.75. I don't know what his interest rate was on his home, but I think we can all agree that if the home was, if he only owed $57,000 on a home worth $425,000, he's been paying on that home for a long time. So the odds of him having a pretty low interest rate is pretty high. So they're giving up those low interest rates for a $332,000 second position HELOC at 7.38%. And these are not their actual expenses and income. I just needed the difference to be $2,500. Why $2,500? Because $2,500 is what Kim and Greg are paying towards this HELOC. So as long as the difference is $2,500, it didn't matter in this calculator how I got there. So if the income is $5,000 and the expenses are $2,500, then that means the difference, meaning the cash flow going towards paying off the second position HELOC, is $2,500. So, okay, how long would it take? Well, this says it would take about 282 months. Well, if you do some math on how many years is 282 months, it's well more than 15 years. I want to say it's like 23 or something like that. I did the math earlier. I can't remember what it is right now. But let's view some of the details though. So if let's slide down. I think it's 180. Get there. There we go. Okay. So if Kim was to apply $2,500 a month towards the second position HELOC for the next 15 years over, 15 years equates to 180 months. So what that means is at the 180 month mark right here, what would be the balance due on this HELOC? And this is covering it up. So I'll bring it down a bit. Just a minute. Yeah, go there. So at 180 months, the balance on that second position HELOC would be about $186,000. Let's call it 187. So again, even after 15 years, the second position HELOC is not paid off. Am I upset about that? Let's get into why I'm not upset about that. And for that, I have to go back to the calculator. If we were to just do a secure compound interest account I almost said it. Cal. I know, I almost said it.
Cal, he's your pal.
If we were to do a secure compound interest account on Cal, this $67,000 in income would be available. But we owe $187,000 on the second position HELOC, right? Yeah. So if we owe $187,000, how do we pay it off? Well, can I not pay off that $187,000 right out of my cash value if I wanted to? Or If it's a 15-year draw period or a 20-year draw period, whatever the draw period might be, maybe dad decides to use his income to pay off the HELOC, meaning the HELOC will still get paid off. It's just a question of when and where or how you do it. But the cash value is available to do so is my point. But that's if we do this on Cal. What if we do the exact same, take the exact same dollar amount and put it on Kim? So she's 35.
Yep.
We're going to allow it to compound for the same 15 years, which means
Yep.
she'd be 50 at that point.
Yep.
So the same $2,700 on Kim, what does that look like? So we go from $67,000 in income up to $109,000 tax-free for the rest of her life. So again, $187,000 is what's owed on the second position HELOC. We could take $109,000 of it right now and knock that balance down to 87, and then next year pay it off with just the cash flow flowing from this instrument. If she had been paying off that 25 or 15-year mortgage with that $2,500, and now at 15 years being free and clear, how much, what kind of vehicle would have been generated to be able to produce income at the end of that 15-year point?
Man.
How about none? And in addition, if we want to take that $187,000 and pay off that second position HELOC, how about we take that $187,000 right here?
Right. And this is just the difference of the policy being on her because it's cheaper and then the policy being written on him, correct?
The $40,000 difference.
Okay, but this also has nothing to do with, let's say 70, let's just say he takes this for, let's say she never stops funding
Here we go.
this.
Here we go. So
because this is her policy on her, and so at some point she's going to be able to take the income from it.
What did dad say? What did dad say he needed?
Supplement.
He wanted $60,000 a year.
Okay.
$5,000 a month, which means give dad his $60,000.
Yeah.
Dad, take your $60,000. Where's
go.
this remaining $49,000 gonna go? Whose is that?
What's it gonna do?
You're telling me Kim and Greg couldn't use this $49,000?
Kim and Greg doing something with $49,000. I promise
Right?
you that.
And again, don't forget, this is a life insurance policy. So God forbid something happens to Kim. You talk about legacy based off these actions that dad has taken, based off the fact that he decided to redirect where his money was going and engage his daughter and his son-in-law in a better approach. Just because, and all they're doing is redirecting the same dollars. Again, we're not reinventing anything. There's no magical lump sum coming from anywhere. We're just redirecting the same dollars into a different location. Talk about legacy. He's now placed his daughter in a position to be able to provide $5.6 million into that family bank. God forbid something happened to her.
Thanks, Dad. Golly, you can't wrap that up for Christmas. Well, you can. You could wrap this up for Christmas if you created a plan for your family.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and if you pull up the full vibe board, because I think because we're kind of at the end, so we can just talk about these things. Pull up the whole vibe board.
All right. Let's talk about them.
Oh, guess you decided not to pull up the whole one.
Oh, no, we're going to do it right.
All right.
Here we go.
So what is this family bank? Like, what is the contents of this family bank at this point? And again, we're talking about at the 15-year period. At the 15-year period, what's happened? Well, dad has done a secure compound interest account on daughter, and the contents of that secure compound interest account is about $950,000 in tax-free income, or $950,000 in liquid cash ready and available to be used. It's also created about $109,000 in income per year if it's warranted, if it's necessary. In addition, Cal has about $500,000 in equity still available. And just so we're clear, I put $500,000 plus because I acknowledge the fact that there's about $187,000 that has to be paid off. The home was originally worth $425,000 15 years ago. So what's the odds if the home was worth $425,000 15 years ago and the home was paid off 15 years ago? what are the odds of there being at least $500 or more of equity in that home 15 years later and being able to pay off the $187,000 that's owed? I think it's pretty high.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm being very modest. My point is I'm being very modest in the $500,000 of equity. And in addition, Kim and Greg's home has been paid off for 15 years as well. Their original balance on their mortgage was $275. Let me make up a number and say the home was worth $300. I don't know. Again, I don't know these details. But is it safe to say that that home that had a mortgage on it of $275 15 years ago is at least double 15 years later? So isn't it safe to say that there's at least $500,000 of equity or more inside that home as well?
Right.
Again,
Right.
had they continued down the path they were going, there still would have been a home paid off. And there still would have been a secure compound interest account built, creating about $33,000, if not $60,000 a year in income.
Right.
And Dad would have still paid off his home as well, meaning we would have still accomplished the same goals had we not redirected or restructured where this money was going. But do you see the power of just by simply taking a different approach?
Yeah. Did he say if he had any grandkids?
So I didn't even go down that path. I was so excited about the fact that I think this started to play itself out because again, this wrote itself. It was just me asking questions, and as we asked more and more questions, it was, well, wait a minute, what if we did this? Whoa, what if we did that? Hey, have you thought about this? And this is just kind of where we landed. I didn't normally I dig into a lot of those details, but I just didn't need to.
Well, but normally you're digging for the details. I'm just nosy, so that's why if
True
I
story.
was on the call with people, I would just be asking because I just like
What's
to
your
know
mama name?
people's story. I know. I'm like, oh, what does she do? It's not because I feel entitled to know this stuff. Sometimes I even say like, I know this is 1,000% none of my business, but I'm going to ask anyway, and feel free not to answer. But I'm just being nosy. I want to know something. But this is why, because I do think that knowing, does he have a partner? Is he married? Somebody's asking in the chat, just throwing that out there. but understand,
Cal needs some support. I got some support over here, Cal, if you need some support.
Cal, if you need a retirement friend, okay, if there's somebody in the chat for you. I do think that understanding what all the variables are really does matter. And here's why I'm saying that, because let's just say there's no grandkids at this point. Let's just say that there's going to be a grandkid. Let's just say they want to have kids. It's okay if you don't. It's all right. We get it. We understand how challenging that can be, especially in recent times. Not saying any names, but can be challenging. So some people are like, not a vibe, don't want to do it. If they did right now, when they start this plan, 15 years later, this kid's probably going to start driving. And now we have this whole bank, insane points of leverage for them to be able to start financing anything that they wanted themselves. They have completely become their own banks in so many ways.
There's no need for Bank of America at all from this point forward.
Right.
And as I mentioned, there are many ways to 10.
Unless it was just to borrow like OPM and it was cheap money that they were borrowing for whatever the purpose is. Yeah.
I agree with that.
There's leverage, there's options.
But there's so much we haven't discussed.
Yeah.
Like there's so much here that, because again, I would hope that they wouldn't waste this $500,000+ of equity over that 15-year period. Like there's no reason why Greg shouldn't have his own secure compound interest account. None whatsoever. And I'm talking even if it's just $500 a month. There's no reason why there should be an additional vehicle that we should be adding to this list. And to your point, if there are kids involved, there is no reason why there isn't $100, $200 a month being placed into some child's secure compound interest account. So when they hit college age or when they graduate from college or they want to, I'll call it, start their first home or whatever those reasons are, there isn't a whole list of vehicles here that are leverageable to be able to do what you want, when you want, without having to be approved for it, without being concerned with what your credit score is or isn't. It is purely leverageable based on the fact that Cal said, you know what? I know I can solve this problem on my own, but I would like to look at this holistically and figure out how I can solve my family's challenges. I
Yeah.
want to be able to leverage the equity in my home to be able to put my daughter in a better position, create a family bank, uh, start my secure compound interest account, put my family in a position to where they don't have to worry about money at any point. You're telling me this isn't generational wealth,
He's cracked the code. And this
right?
is, yeah, this is a great plan. And I'm grateful that when he said, and I go back to the beginning, what I said in the beginning, what you decide your goal is, when you ask people, what's your goal? And they tell you, well, my goal is to pay off my house. My goal is to this. My goal is to that. And I think we do need to have a class, almost like a class, on how to define your goal. Because so many people come in and they have no idea what all of their variables are. They don't know that this one particular piece that they have is so impactful. If we could have more conversations and normalize this concept of the family bank, can you imagine how many families would be thriving, and how many generations of people are just barely surviving and will continue to do so without information? That is
Right.
the only thing we're talking about here, folks. Information. Now you do have to qualify for a SKIA. So that is one part of this.
You got to qualify for a HELOC. Like
Yeah, you
none of this
do.
is coming
Right.
to you.
Right.
Like there are some hoops that you have to jump through. There are some qualifications that have to be met. But I think a better question is: are any of these hurdles that you have to jump over too high for you to jump? And the answer is no.
Yeah.
If
That's
all you
true.
have to do is be healthy to be able to put your family in a position to have generational wealth, why isn't that goal number one?
Right. Right. Why am I so low when I come to this one? Okay, we have some questions, so I want to throw those up.
So no problem. Hopefully, because I caught it as I was doing this, so I'm gonna. I think one of the first questions I saw was from L. Fletcher, but I don't think there was a Q in front of it. And
Right.
I think Nathan had mentioned it, so I don't know if you have that one in the queue, but I did see it there. So I just wanted to highlight
Yeah,
that.
well, his was about his personal situation, about how he, I think, right?
I think. Hold on, I was almost there because I see his name
Fletcher, put your
here. I
question
got it.
back
I got
in.
it. I'll show it.
Okay.
So we can just start there and then we can jump in from there.
Okay.
Basically, what he was saying was he had started his secure compound interest account a while back, and he's now in a better position to be able to get started. And so the question was, can I make payments to a secure compound interest account pre-taxed? And here's the thing: this is a life insurance based product. All life insurance based products, not some, all life insurance based products are funded with after tax dollars, meaning money you've already paid tax on. You fund secure compound interest accounts with money from your income, savings, or liquidated asset. They're all the same. And here's why you want it to be that way. You don't want to put, um, uh, I'll call it non-tax dollars into a vehicle like this, because what that means is on any other growth, you're going to owe that tax. So anytime you take a distribution, you're going to owe taxes on the amount that you take distributions from. Because you're funding this policy with money you've already paid tax on, therefore, the money that's growing is growing tax-free, and therefore, every time you take a distribution, it's a tax-free distribution. And again, there are ways to take a taxable distribution out of this vehicle, but you wouldn't want to do that. My point is, you actually want it to be set up the way that it is, because you actually it's a Roth environment, meaning your money's growing in a tax-free environment, which makes it pretty powerful. So when you're ready to get started, simply just jump on the calendar and let's knock this out. Now, will your original application still be good? It really depends on how much time has lapsed, but I think the short of it is probably not. We'll probably have to start over, and that's not a bad thing. The process for creating a secure compound interest account either takes 11 minutes or 30 minutes. And based off what I know about you, it'll probably take you about 11 minutes to knock this out. So it's not a big deal. So reach out to me. We can knock that out, and we can get that thing going. All right, let's jump into the question, sweetheart.
Okay. Rose says, SKIA, is there another vehicle other than an IUL, Index Universal Life, or Whole Life to use the SKIA strategy with?
So the strategy that you're referencing is, can you add leverage? Because really the biggest piece about a secure compound interest account, or the one that I'm referencing, is the leverage part. There are many SKIAs out there, and that is just a properly designed cash value life insurance product. You can design a whole life policy to make it effective. You can um, design an IUL and make it effective. You can design a universal life insurance policy. Like there's the laser fund, there's Kaizen, there's premium financing. Like there's a whole bunch of them out there. What makes this product different though is the leverage part. So are there other vehicles that allow you to add leverage inside of the policy to be able to grow it even faster, higher, more efficient? And the short answer to that question is there's only two. There's your premium finance strategy, the original premium finance strategy from 1997, but you got to have, what is it, $5 million of net worth to be able to qualify for that. And then there's the strategies that we're talking about here as it relates to maximum premium indexing, because it's the leverage part that makes this different. Now, I think as this evolves, in truth, MPI is just a leveraged IUL. So the question that you're really asking is, are there other IULs that allow leverage? Well, that's based off the life insurance company that you're working with for your IUL. This strategy is not, I'll call it a well adopted strategy across the industry. Why? Well, it's because in order for a life insurance company to be okay to add this leverage, there has to be some incentive to make that happen. And that incentive means it has to be structured with the least amount of fees. Well, in order for a policy to be structured with the least amount of fees, someone has to take less money up front. Guess who that someone is? It's the life insurance company. So if the life insurance company is open to taking less money up front, which means they're reducing the amount of fees up front, and the person offering it to you is saying, you know what, I get it. This is a commissionable product, but you know what, I'm going to take less commission as well. So this product is as efficient as possible so that it grows the maximum amount of income. Those variables are the reason why this isn't, I'll call it a process that's adopted across all platforms. I think we will get there, but as of right now, there are only two. Next question, sweetheart.
All right. It's it's a comment I flagged just because I think that this is a great comment. She said, yes, family banks are real and possible. I remember when my coworker told me that his parents gave him $200,000 to put down on his house. I was happy and jealous at the same time. And this is a thing.
Right. How does that come about?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
It's lucky. Right,
Sorry.
right. It's not I woke up this morning and magically $200,000 landed in my checking account. Thank you, mom and dad, or thank you, uncle and aunt. It's not like that. What kind of planning went in place? What was the sacrifices that took place to be able to do something like this? How much trust had to be put into whatever that opportunity was to be able to generate something like this? Like there are so many layers here, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, all of that for sure. But I go back to that emotional part of the conversation that we were talking about before, because a lot of that is what's preventing a lot of families from being able to unite like this, or communities just in general. I think there are some that have done a pretty good job of carrying that through decade over decade, but there's so many people that have just like, you know what, screw it. I'll go out on my own and I'll do the best that I can on my own. And it just becomes like that for everybody. You had mentioned before that there's almost like a rite of passage that gets transferred down. And it's this sense of struggle that you need to experience, because if you don't, then you don't understand what it
Don't
is.
appreciate it.
Right, right. And I think that there's probably a better way to address that too. Probably some therapist or psychologist has all of these tools for us, but I do think that we still have a few missing pieces in order to really like heal our communities and build that trust into our families, so that we're not setting people up to like throwing them in, even if there's a little life preserver on them, in a sense. Like, you're not going to completely drown, but you're going to be scared jumping in. I know this whole conversation makes you uncomfortable, Donnell.
Well, it's not that part. It's the fraternal part of it. Meaning,
Yeah.
I am going to intentionally watch you struggle,
Yeah.
knowing that I have the resources to be able to assist you. But it's the rite of passage part. I have to watch you struggle so you can appreciate the value and not waste this opportunity that I put in front of you. Like, we run into it in our household. Like it's a thing.
Yeah.
And so what's the work that we need to do as parents? What's the work that the the children, whoever they are, whatever the age is, what's the work that needs to happen within the family structure so that we can get out of that mindset? Because otherwise, we'll continue this path.
Yeah, man. And when you know better, you do better. So kudos to the coworker that you had and that, safety net that they got, this rush of leverage and opportunity, really, a head start. And I wish that for everybody. And I think that we have to become a society who we're setting up our families. It's non-negotiable, right? Has to become non-negotiable where we're going, because income rates are not adjusting at the same rate as the cost of living. So something's got to give, and it has to be the things that we can control. We have to.
Right.
This is one of them. Nathan says a good test to see how wealthy are you. Can you use the same dollar more than once? And two, every dollar used comes right back to you. And I think that's the take control part. That's the part about becoming self-directed.
That's it.
Fully self-directed. There are many strategies that we talk about here. There are 6 in particular, 5 that we really hone down on. And it's because these have the most impact and the most amount of people have the opportunity to leverage them. And so,
Well, not only that, it's 10. This was our 10. These strategies are what we're currently doing. These aren't strategies that we think you should do. These
Right.
are the strategies that we are doing, and this is how they went together for us. And this is
Right.
just our way to 10. There are many different ways to 10.
Yeah. Every time you say that, I'm just reminded that it wasn't always like this. And as we've evolved and learned, and the emotional process even that we've gone through around conversations about this, there's a couple of people that come to mind when I'm thinking of your spouse not being on the same page as you. And well, I just want to say, like, shout out to those who, Veronica, you're one of them. I'm going to name names. You're one of them who you keep showing up even though you're showing up alone. You're watching and you're learning alone. And there are a lot of people who are like that, who their spouse, they are not on the same page, but they said, that's okay. I can't wait for them to be on the same page. I have to move forward. They can thank me later. That's fine.
Right.
This isn't about being right.
Right.
This is about doing the right thing. This isn't about feeling like I am right. This is about doing the correct thing, knowing that regardless of what they think the consequences are right now, or if it's annoying to them, it doesn't matter, because I know in the end this is going to pay off, and they are going to say, wow, I couldn't see it then. I don't know that they are going to be able to be the ones to get their spouse on board, because sometimes these conversations are almost taboo. It's like, we have a great marriage as long as we don't talk about money.
Right.
We have a great relationship
It's a real
as
thing.
long as we keep that separate and we do not talk about it, which then ends up becoming like, at some point you're going to have to talk about it. It's the dust up under the rug. And at some point it's this huge mound that you can't walk over anymore, right? Can't get away from. And so kudos to those who are out there who are pioneering, blazing the trail for your family, even though the rest of your family is not on board. That is a lonely space to be in, but knowing that you're celebrated, knowing that you're supported, knowing that you have a community to dip into, and one who is not going to judge your spouse when they finally get on board, right? When they come around, we are going to be like cheering and celebrating for you, because we get it. I was that spouse, by the way. I was the one who was like, okay, well, whatever. I'm just going to trust that you're doing the right things. If we go down, we're going down together, I guess, because we're married, and that's just what's going to happen. Then there was this point where I went, maybe I need to be paying attention. And I think it was just, why do we have to there's so many things in the world that are going on. There's so many things in our life, and we're raising a family and all of these other things that are so complicated. Why do we have to complicate things even more by adding all of these strategies and things that nobody else is doing these things,
Right.
Donnell?
Right.
I was like, why? Why do we have to be different in this way? Just be regular. And
Well, and what that implies is the risk.
yeah,
Like, why do we have to take? It feels risky. Why do we have to take this risk?
right.
because there's a imbalance or a lack of security here, and I'm unsure. And I think regardless of what the numbers say, where's the history? Where's the
Right.
history that says, hey, this is what everyone does, this is how everyone approaches it, and there's evidence out there that it works? Like, where's that? And I think that's the hard part, right?
Well, just the fact that there's a lot of people using those traditional systems feels like evidence that it works. But if you really look at the evidence, if you look at those results, you'll realize there's so many people. Every time I hear somebody saying, if you put in this amount for a month, like $100, $200, $500, it could be 1,000, who cares? By the time you're 60, 65, you'll have $1.2 million in retirement. And they're like, wow. They're not saying you will have a third of the income that you need just to survive. Just to survive. Ooh, mind blown. Wow. What a freaking this I'm a reel it in because I just this to be an exciting thing for people to continue to be talking about, like this is amazing, is infuriating for me. Now that I know what I know. And I think I was that person who would have said, wow, $1.2 million, like that's the top 2% of people reach that only. That's a lot of money. At least we could aim for this, what they say, aim for the stars and you'll shoot for the moon and you'll land amongst the stars.
Right, right.
And that's what it feels like. But when you realize that you're shooting at a third of what you'll need to survive, what the heck are we shooting at? It doesn't work. The results are not there. There isn't any proof that this stuff works. It worked for some people at some point, and now we need new systems, and we have them. And strategy and structure matters, and so that's why we double down on that.
As Coach Val states, your quality of life is determined by the quality of questions you ask yourself.
Yeah.
And this comment, oh, not this one. I didn't mean to do that. I meant this comment. This comment right here. Um, Life insurance is a scary thought. Here's first off, yes, it is. But let's go deeper. Why is life insurance a scary thought? And if you're going to say life insurance is a scary thought, why isn't the 401k a scary thought? Why isn't the
Mm.
Roth IRA a scary thought? Because it should be, because to the point that you were just making, my $1 million in my 401k equates to $40,000 of income. Is that okay? If I'm going into retirement a millionaire and I can only have $40,000 of income available, that should concern me. And by the way, it would actually be more than $1 million that I have if 2/3 of it wasn't eaten up by fees. So if we did a better job of asking some of the questions of the people that have our current retirement accounts, we might actually get to a different place. And it goes the same way with insurance. Don't trust any of these people. Ask better questions,
Mm.
because the more questions you ask, the better educated you can become. So that way you can actually turn what seems like it might be scary to actually more of a logic based decision, a math based decision around how to get to your goal. Because the reasons life insurance is a scary thought is because of all them damn MLMs out there. There's a whole lot of life insurance companies that do not have your best interest at heart. So how do you
Yeah.
figure out which ones do? It is, you have to ask better questions. You have to identify where the opportunities are within this space and pit them against each other. Do the math. And I think once we again ask better questions, we can actually get to better solutions.
Yeah. And I mean, educating yourself, that's really where it is. Um, yeah, there is so much here, but that
Layers,
yeah. And I
layers.
have wanted to have this as a topic. It is the concept of new thoughts or ideas, because there's so many people that shoot down even the things that we talk about. They're
Right.
like, don't do that because, and here's why, this doesn't make sense. And I just want to say, when you're out there and you are learning something new, and the minute that you get any kind of resistance to that information, it's easy to go, well, wait a second, because that did feel good. Something was tracking for me. So if you can't explain why, and they are so confident in saying, trust me, do not do this, right? But they can't explain why. It is very confusing when you're trying to educate yourself. And that is unfortunate for some people. We hear about these things all the time, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's Kim and the 15-year mortgage and comfortably putting away $25,000 a month so that she can buy that house twice. Like,
Ooh,
why is that
yeah,
okay? It's okay
right.
because I'm in this community where I've been conditioned to believe that this is okay. So therefore it's not scary because this is what everybody's doing. It's baby step 4 or baby step whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Not really looking at the fact that when you peel back the layers and look at the math, you're actually hurting yourself.
Yeah. You baby stepped yourself into the grave
Poverty.
because, yeah.
You baby stepped yourself right into being poor
Yeah. Because now
because
you have
that
your,
$2,500 should have been placed in a vehicle that's actually working for you versus
right.
helping the bank.
Right. Yeah. Who does he work for, by the way? Because it does seem like all of his advice does
Quality of the
benefit.
questions. You start peeling a little who benefits?
Yeah. Who
Who
benefits?
benefits?
Right. I do think though that for some people that don't have any plan, like don't YOLO it and just
Right,
spend
right,
everything
right,
and not have anything.
right.
So I think that some people do need that discipline or the envelope system. They need something, some sort of framework to start building habits. So I don't think that it's all bad. And you've said that you agree with that
Yeah, I was about to drop my
before.
disclaimer. I am a Dave Ramsey fan as it relates to that discipline piece. I think there are people out there that need the baby steps.
Yeah, I think they get lost in the baby steps though because they don't have a why. They don't get the bigger picture. And so that's where they end up baby stepping themselves into being debt free and like having a house that's completely paid for that you starve in because you have no income. You can't eat in 20 years or 40 years or in retirement, and that's where he's all the beans and rice type of thing. But it's just not okay. There is a better way. And here's the part we'll go ahead and share what you want to say because I want to
Well, I was
share
just going to
something.
say throughout life, we graduate. We all start out crawling and then we walk and then we run and then we sprint. We start out in elementary school, then we go to high school, then some of us go to college, meaning there are layers and levels to this that we graduate to. Where is the graduation from these baby steps? That's the problem. And I think there's a niche that uh, DR is missing out on because if he just simply allowed these people to graduate to the next level, it's game over because he's got the following. And so, in truth, what are you graduating to? Meaning, these concepts fit for the people that need the discipline. Okay, now I'm disciplined. I understand how not to misuse my credit cards. Now I need to put my money in a vehicle that's actually going to work for me so I can fire my job.
Yeah.
Like, where's the Dave Ramsey course on that?
I do think though, because he's about to retire, it's been kind of all over that he's retiring and he's spreading out. So it's not just because Bob Proctor had the same thing where the brand was so much about him that it couldn't continue after he stepped down or passed away, right? So
Right.
the Tony Robbins, he's facing the same thing. Like his son works there and you wouldn't even know who he is. Nobody cares. And that's really sad because there could be a lot of value there. There could also be transitional ideologies too with where things could be going based on this new generation of people who are in there. I think we've already seen that in some of the people who he had deemed like this is Dave proof income coming from this institution. These people that are in place, they had different ideas, they had different opinions, and he tore them up. But if you listen to them, they are thinking about the future and they are being told to shut up
Right.
and not give people that advice, which is so dangerous. But it reminds me of this story, and this is what I wanted to share, and I'll try to make it fast. Back in the 80s, there was a doctor who came out with this new study for ulcers. And he came to the board and he said, I've done this research and I have proof that ulcers are not caused by spicy food. I have proof that it is not caused by spicy food and that we do not need to continue cutting out these holes in stomachs. I have proof that it is not what you think it is. And these doctors were like, Man, get out of here. We've been doing this for a long time. We've been treating people in the same way and we've been giving the same advice. We've been prescribing them all these medications for, it's not medical advice either, by the way, uh, for decades, right? We know a lot about ulcers clearly because we've been dealing with them for this long. He's like, yeah, but I have a theory that stress has a lot more to do with people developing ulcers than it does what they're eating. And they said, no, not a thing. It's stress in your mind. Really, your mind is causing ulcers. They were like, you are crazy, cray cray. You get out of here. Don't even talk to us about ulcers anymore. Clearly, we know more than you. Who does this sound like, right? He says, okay, well, I've been treating some people and I've been trying to impact, like reduce their stress. It's actually reduced their symptoms. So, how could this not be something you'd want to consider? They were like, no, it's not a thing. Just we're going to move forward. So, for decades, they continued on and they refused this research. How many people suffered because they got to decide that this was how it was going to be handled, which meant that all the doctors who graduated and all of the doctors who were currently practicing, they weren't going to be going against this advice because they would be talked about. They would be told to step down. They would be told they're called quacks. They didn't want to be
Right.
discredited, right, in their
Right.
field. And so for decades, how many people suffered because they were being mistreated based off of what somebody else just believed with no proof? They're still having, it's still a problem, right? But this is in dental, this is in every area. It's not just in the financial field. It's everywhere. And there are people who have stepped forward and said, hey, we have a better strategy. We have more information. We have done the math on this, and we've proven that something has to change because it's not being fixed clearly. But it's only at the cost of other people, their time, their resources, their health, their wealth, their family, their quality of life. Like all of these things is what it's costing for these gatekeepers. They're not tied to that. They don't
Right.
have the same experience as you. They get to decide what is said to be healthy or unhealthy, whether it's financially or medically, right? Yet they are not tied to your outcome. They're not. They don't care if you are actually going to be wealthy. They don't care. This is why we have to care enough for ourselves and our families to get educated and arm our friends, our family, and those who we love with the same information and encourage everyone to get educated. We can no longer just trust and move forward with what the popular thing is. We have to understand why it works, right?
Right. Right.
So that we can understand what those opportunities are. And so I go back to the beginning of this live stream when I said, what is the goal? Being able to define what your goal is happens to be found in understanding what your ingredients are, what the variables are, and the factors in your equation, because not everybody's the same. And it's not one size fits all.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, we got a couple more questions. So Jeff had the same question I had earlier, right? He said, would the taxes and insurance on the daughter's home, now that it's paid off, cut into the $2,500? And I think this is a loaded question because what he's saying is, how would the taxes be impacted now that things are structured differently and it's not so clean?
Yep, and I think I even have that dollar amount. I want to say it's about $435 a month in taxes and insurance is what's kind of built inside of that 2,500. So you're absolutely correct. So does that $435 dollars a month have to be addressed? It sure does. No different than there are other variables like I've got a free and clear home with $275,000 of equity. Is there an opportunity to leverage some of that to do other things? Yeah, this didn't check every box. So yes, the taxes and insurance do have to be addressed, and I don't think that's a challenge. Is my point. I don't think that there's an issue with addressing any of those issues with the leverage and the ability that's been generated based off just restructuring where dollars are going.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up with the chat. Y'all are in here. And- Okay, well, I think maybe nobody had a question to add. Okay. So Rose said, families need to watch this together and have that Thanksgiving conversation. And yeah, the pass the gravy.
Right.
And I thought that was clever, but nobody got it. They were like, what? What are you talking about? The gravy. Did you guys get it? Pass the gravy? No? Okay.
It was a great dad joke though.
Yeah, I tried. So she has another question from what we asked before. Can a HELOC hold even when the property is placed into the trust?
So I do have a few clients who their trust does own the property, and the property does have a HELOC on it. So I have a few clients. My personal structure isn't set up that way, but I do know of a few clients who do. So is it possible? Yes. Yes. The short answer to that question.
Okay.
Now I would assume that state to state things may vary state to state. So obviously, I would touch base with your trust lawyer in your state to kind of determine what the rules and regulations are. And the only reason I bring that up is because I know Texas is just different. Texas is different.
Yeah, it is different. Wait, why am I big? Okay.
So a trust will be useful in case something happened to Kim. That is very true. Would a dad or husband get the life insurance and cash value if not spelled out? And I think that's the part. There's a lot of details here that have to be ironed out. What I like to focus on is the strategy. Does the strategy work? And I think I was trying to poke holes in the strategy and I couldn't find it. But you're absolutely right. I think there has to be a trust in place because the daughter could easily go, Dad, I know I'm supposed to take this $2,500 and put it into your home equity line of credit, but I'm not. Thank you, and we're moving on. What is he going to do? What is his recourse? There isn't any, and
Yeah.
so this absolutely has to be spread out. I think contracts matter, trust matters, the type of trust, and how this thing is spelled out absolutely makes a difference because yes, this could become problematic. But I go back to, does the strategy work though? Is this possible? This is absolutely 100% possible.
Okay. Well, one thing that we have been asking is, does this new time work? Does the new time work? We were at we used to be 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then we realized that people were on earlier and it was getting too late. Our streams were going too late. So then we said, okay, let's back it up so that we can kind of ensure that more people are able to tune in. And so now I'm seeing that more people are jumping in around that 6 p.m. Mark. So I'm curious if you prefer the 6 p.m. If that time frame works better for you. We do need this feedback because we definitely want to make sure that people aren't feeling like, what the heck? Because we had it all over our reels and all over, stuff everywhere, content that you find us on different platforms saying that it was 6 p.m. And we thought, well, if that doesn't serve everyone, if it's too late, we are willing to make that change. But what I think we're learning is we're going to probably need to go back to that 6 p.m. mark. So
I just show up when my producer tells me to show up. So if that's what we're doing, that's what we're doing. Let's do it.
Yeah, maybe we need to move it to 5. What is it? 7? No.
6 our time.
Yeah, 5 p.m. Yeah, 5 p.m. Pacific
PST.
Standard Time.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. If we need to move it, put a vote in. Put a vote in and tell us what you guys think. What time works best for you so that we know. We could maybe even do 2 times. Different time on Sunday than on Wednesday. That makes it kind of difficult for people to remember.
Yeah.
But we do want to make sure that people are able and have a chance to ask their questions live too. I think that that's a great opportunity for some people. So, and to jump in the chat. We don't know if you're watching unless you're inside the chat. We often try to pay attention to our text message service too, just to make sure that those who are watching from the TV, that we can get them. I haven't seen anything come in during the stream, but we haven't put it up either.
Right.
Yeah, and that's okay. We don't have to do it every time.
So real quick, I know Carlos had this question earlier, and I don't think I addressed it. So I just happened to run across it, so I wanted to
Okay.
make sure I address it. Can I write off the premiums on my taxes? And I know I'd kind of highlighted this a little bit, but I think it didn't necessarily address this question. So I'm just going to kind of restate it because the short answer to the question is: Can I write off my premiums on my taxes? Remember, the premiums, the dollar amount that you're putting into your secure compound interest account is money you've already paid taxes on. So it's money coming from your income. You've already paid income taxes on that. It's coming from your savings. The savings 9 times out of 10 came from your income, which means you've already paid taxes on that. Or it's coming from a liquidated asset. When you liquidate the asset and you receive whatever the return is, you're going to owe capital gains. So you're going to end up owing, already paying taxes on that. So because you're funding this product with money you've already paid taxes on, there's nothing to write off. And because the growth inside of the policy is happening tax free, when you go to leverage it, when you go to take distributions from the policy as income, those, as long as you've maintained the tax advantages inside the product, which means you haven't taken any withdrawals and you leverage against the policy and you take distributions from the policy, those are all tax free distributions, or leverage from a policy is also tax free as well. So, what you want to do is maintain that I guess it's called tax favorability. And in doing so, the money or the distributions that you take from the policy ends up being tax free. So, can you write off the premiums on your taxes? There's really no reason to, because the money that you're using for your premiums, you've already paid taxes on. That makes sense.
Okay, he had another question. Are policies in New Jersey exempt from judgments and liens?
And that would be I would say, specific to asking a lawyer in New Jersey that could probably answer that for you. What I can say is life insurance, cash value life insurance policies in general are tax advantage, and also judgment and lien advantage as well, meaning they're protected by those things. But I would just kind of confirm that by talking with, again, talking with some estate lawyer in the state that you're living in, because it is possible that New Jersey may have some different requirements, as does Texas, meaning Texas is just a different place. So therefore, whenever I get questions like this, I think you always have to go back to the state and see what the state requires, because it's possible that it could be different. But cash value life insurance products in general that's one of the advantages of products like this, is because they protect you against judgments and liens.
Okay. April has a question because she's not getting the notification and she didn't want to hit the bell icon because she thought maybe it would give her notifications to everyone she's subscribed to. So I think this is a good reminder just to let everyone know. Yeah, if you hit that bell icon and you set it to, you can customize what notifications you get, but if you don't hit that bell icon, you won't get notifications when we go live. But at least then, if we do change the time, or if we do some random pop-up one, then and you're available, then you'll know, versus trying to remember when we go live and join us. So that would be something that you could do right now. Underneath this video should be the bar where it says your the channel name, and then that you're subscribed, right? And that you liked this live stream, right? And then there should be a bell icon, and you click on that, and then it will give you the options to customize how many notifications you want to get. We try not to post, over post here. So we post the shorts. I don't know if it sends you every time we post a short if you click all, but I think just making sure that you have the bell clicked, you will definitely get a notification when we go live. Yeah. Okay. So there's that. I don't know that oh, Rose has a question. Did you catch that? I'll pull it up. Okay. What insurance companies' names are structuring a SKIA? How do you get one? Do you just go to, and I'm going to finish her question. How do you get one? How do we know how to look for one? And if our cousin, our uncle, our friend, guy works, down the street from us, can I get one from him or her?
Yep. So the thing about a secure compound interest account is, traditionally you can get them from any A+ rated mutual life insurance companies, and there's hundreds of them out there, right? But it's really less about the life insurance company specifically, and more about the structure. And so it's can I get a policy structured to be able to fit my needs? Because again, a Kaizen is a Skia. The laser fund, Skia. You can consider IBC, a properly designed whole life policy for IBC. You can consider that a Skia. A secure compound interest account, meaning it's a secure vehicle that allows you to build compound interest over time. Like there's a lot of vehicles that fit in that fashion. But when we're talking about something like a premium finance strategy, there's a select few. And so we're talking, Mass Mutual, Global, NLG, Athene, Mutual of Omaha. There's a lot of them out there. And I think it really starts, though, with how this thing is being structured. Because you can put it this way, you can go to a Mutual of Omaha to get a secure compound interest account and it not have the leverage and everything required for you to be able to produce the income you want. And then you can go to a different agent, go to the same company, get a product properly designed to be able to produce the income you want in a premium finance strategy. So it's less about the company and more about how it's designed and who you got it from. And as it relates to MPI specifically, you would want a certified MPI advisor, someone who has the ability to structure or design these SKIA to be able to fit your needs. So it's really less about the life insurance company and more about how it's structured, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people say, "Oh, I could
I
design
can do
it
that for you.
exactly the
Yeah.
same." Yeah, that's
Nothing.
not true. It's not true. It is different, and there is a reason why it's different. And there's a reason why we can use a calculator like this because this is approved, and there's a lot of red tape and legal stuff that had to go through with that, which is why you won't see anybody else using something like this because they can't. And unless they are a certified advisor, they will not be able to.
Right.
So Zaid has a great question.
Great
Does a
question.
large 100K lump sum when starting a SKIA have to be split up into 2 years, 100K year one or 50K year one and 50K year two? Does it matter when they try to supercharge?
Right.
Relock, I think is what he's talking about, right?
Absolutely. One of my favorite examples, because I've done it several times, I've used that same structure of the example in several of our lives, and that is, I have a client putting in $100,000 lump sum all in year one, and then $10,000 a year every year after that. And that question says to me that maybe there's an opportunity to redo that example, and maybe that's something we do on Wednesday, unless my producer tells me she wants to do something different. But the bottom line is, does that $100,000 have to be split into year one and year two? It does not. The calculator splits the lump sum in half, and that's just how the calculator is built. Can I design a policy for you where you can get all of your lump sum in year one and it not be split between year one and year two? Absolutely, that is not a problem. You just, again, when we kind of have that discussion, we can kind of break that all down. But again, I go back to that example. I've used this example many times, and here's why that's important. Um, a lot of people get confused around where MEC limits are and where guideline maxes are and all those kind of things. And I think putting that large lump sum in year one, what that does is it builds in the ability to no longer have to have more health exams to qualify for more room in your policy. Meaning, if you put in enough leverage early, you're setting yourself up such that you don't have to worry about getting an exam anymore because you've built in enough room to be able to, so when the leverage starts to kick in, you're not mecking your policy or approaching your mech or approaching that limit of life insurance that you've qualified for because you qualified for it at the beginning. So now it's just a matter of putting the leverage in and letting your policy compound. So I would suggest all putting in large lump sums if possible early on, because what that does is it puts you in a position to where you don't have to worry about having an exam anymore. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and the reason why you'd have to have an exam, can you explain
Yep.
that just for
Yep.
some people who may not know?
So let me use a $10,000 example. Let's say you're putting in $10,000 a year every year. So you put in $10,000 year one, it does whatever it does. You put in $10,000 in year two, so that means you put in 20 total, and it does whatever it does. Well, in year three, inside of a properly designed secure compound interest account, at year three, all of the cash value, all of the accumulated value from year one gets added into year three, which means you've put in 10,000 in year one, you've put in 10,000 in year two, you've put in 10,000 in year three, you've put in 30,000, but that 10,000 from year one is now going to be added as leverage in year three. Well, what's actually happening when that occurs? Well, because you're putting in 10,000 a year, you have life insurance based off that $10,000 a year. And this is
Mhm.
a max funded policy, which means we're buying the least amount of life insurance legally possible for that 10,000, which means your MEC limit is probably something like 10,003 cents. What that means is you can't put in any more than $10,000.03, and that will cause your policy to lose all of its tax advantages. So we don't want to do that, nor would I allow that to happen. But my point is, you put in 10,000 year one, you're fine. Put in 10,000 year one, you're fine. I mean, year two, you're fine. But in year three, when you go to put in your 10,000 and we add an additional 10,000 of leverage, it looks like you've put in 20 grand. You weren't approved for 20 grand. You were only approved for 10. So what that means is we have to jump the policy. What that means is the MEC limit that was 10,003 cents now needs to be moved to 20,003 cents. Well, if 10,000 bought a certain amount of life insurance, 20,000 is saying we want more life insurance. Well, you want to approve for more life insurance. So there has to be an exam done just to make sure that you're still healthy, so that the life insurance company can approve you for the life insurance required for you to be able to put in $20,000 a year.
This sounds scary and it sounds risky. So
Mhm.
what else could happen if, because Nathan's asking, does the large lump sum in the beginning increase your max insurability? And
Well,
I hope that his question was answered with what it is that you just said.
but hold on. Max insurability isn't something that you necessarily qualify for in the terms that he's referencing, meaning max insurability is based off your age and a multiplier times your income. So if you're 30 years old, your max insurability is based off 35 times your income. So if the amount you're putting in and the amount of life insurance you're buying exceeds that 35 times your income, because your max insurability is based off that.
Yeah.
When you get qualified for life insurance, there's a maximum amount of life insurance you've qualified for based off the money that you're putting in, and that's your guideline max, not your max insurability. That's the maximum amount based off the life insurance you're buying. And so therefore those are two different measurements, but I go back to, it's all about structure, meaning you want somebody that can kind of step you through what this looks like. And again, to kind of put this all to bed, does a lump sum help the fact that hey, you won't have to worry about any of these changes inside your policy? That's what a large lump sum does, meaning it gives you so much room in your policy that you're nowhere close to hitting those limits. So there's no concern about having to go back to the life insurance company to ask for more room, because you're nowhere close to hitting those limits. That's where the power of a lump sum comes into play. But you said this sounds scary. And the truth is, look at it from the life insurance company's perspective. You are an asset, and the life
Mhm.
insurance company is saying, hey, I am leveraging your health, I am leveraging your life, and I'm putting a certain dollar amount up based off your health and your life. And when we start reaching the limit of what they said you qualify for based off the amount that you're wanting to put in, what we're telling the life insurance company is, I want more. I want more leverage now. I want more. I, I feel like I am deserving of having more value associated with me being here. All the life insurance company is saying is, we don't disagree with you. But from the life insurance company's perspective, we just need to make sure that your health hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Because again, from a capitalist company's perspective, meaning from a life insurance company's perspective, their question is, do you all of a sudden have cancer and you're trying to qualify for more life insurance because you know you won't be here much longer? So therefore, are you trying to take advantage of the fact that
Yeah.
there's this possibility that there's this dollar amount that can be paid out to your family? So we just need to make sure that we are all on the up and up. It's not that I don't trust you. It's just that I
Yeah.
don't trust you.
Don't
So we just
don't
need
be
to
trying to be in
confirm.
here scamming us.
Exactly. So we just need to make sure that you're still healthy. And so, and what does that mean? Some traveling nurse has to come out to your house, take your blood pressure, check your heart rate, and weigh you, and just make sure your health hasn't changed. If that is the
They don't
case,
judge, by the way. They don't judge you.
but if that's the
They
case, as
don't.
long as your health hasn't changed or significantly changed, you qualify for that more life insurance. So I see it as more of a get to, like, meaning
Hmm.
we get to put ourselves in a position to where we can actually leverage more of us being here. Meaning me as an asset, I'm actually worth more. I get to be worth more. which means now I get to put my family in a position to where they can generate more income, which means now I get to build generational wealth, which means now I get to leverage myself to be able to produce income and exceed the 4% rule or beat my 401k or not have to worry about the government and what the taxes are, who's in office. Like these are all things we get to do, all based off being healthy.
Get to.
Where's the scary part about that? Isn't it scarier to be dependent upon the 401k or the IRA or some company or some financial institution to tell me when I can or can't retire or how much I can or can't take out of my retirement? Which one is scarier? Me being in control of my health or me being dependent upon a system that doesn't care about me? Like, come on, make it make sense. But I get it. It's at the core of it, it's conditioning. We haven't been conditioned to think of it this way. When you hear life insurance and a health exam, that doesn't feel good. I don't like going to the doctors. Are there needles involved? Like, I get it. But the truth is, you are an asset. And when we start treating this asset, treating ourselves as a vehicle that can actually generate income for us, that puts us in a position to where we can fire our job, that don't sound scary to me. That sounds like a good time. And matter of fact, it sounds like where we need to be transitioning to so that we can leverage ourselves and put ourselves in a position so where it does not matter what these other vehicles are doing. It does not matter what permission I've been given by my job as to what days I can take off, because now I'm in a position to where I can fire my job if I want to.
Go off, King. That's what they're saying these days. Go off, King. Shout out to all the Gen Z parents out there. We know how rough. We know that we're fighting the good fight too, and we try to stay cool. Okay, Tara has a good question, but the point that you're making is that healthcare is wealth care, and the get to hashtag get to. I like that. Tara says, does another exam have to happen after year 3? Example, in year 7. Now, this is April had a question before this because she's asking about what is supercharge. When you say supercharge, what is it that you mean? And I love that people jumped in to answer this question, and there wasn't a wrong answer.
There isn't a wrong answer. Yeah.
There's so many ways to supercharge in a strategy like this. This term applies to many things, but here's why I said it was scary, because I think that when you're going in to do this, if there's a risk that there's going to be this impact to you, what if you don't qualify?
Right.
That's the part, is that we can't control a lot of things, and sometimes we can't say, whoops, we should have tried to qualify for more insurance and seen this coming before I got diagnosed with this thing, right? That would impact that, or my health changed in some way, or got into this accident, which then impacted something that would impact you. Who knows what would happen, right? We don't know. And that's the part that's scary. However, what I was going to ask you, and I think this would be fair to tag on to Tara's question, is when you go, why is this impactful? What could be done if you want to avoid another health exam? Yeah. Is it mandatory? Like, I don't even want to go into this thing because if this thing comes up and I can't qualify, then what? Or is there another way to pivot and still be able to leverage and structure this so that you can two birds with one stone, win-win, find the win-win?
And this is where I have to go back to 10. There's so many different ways and so many different answers here, but I'll give you one. Using that $10,000 example, 10,000 year 1, 10,000 year 2, 10,000 year 3. At year 3, I'm going to add an additional 10,000, which means it looks like I'm putting in 20 instead of 10. Well, because you were qualified for the 10, meaning you were given life insurance based off the 10, and when you go to take another exam to see if you qualify for the 20, for some reason you don't. Well, what could you do at that point? Well, the $10,000 of leverage is still available. It just means maybe this particular policy won't qualify for more life insurance. So can I take that $10,000 of leverage and go do a policy on a spouse? Can I take this $10,000 of leverage and go do a policy on my kids? Yep. Can I take this $10,000 of leverage, go do infinite banking, pay down my home? Like, you still have the leverage, you still have the ability to use it and do whatever you want. It just may be that you can't get it into this policy. So that's one. Is there a requirement that you will have to have another exam at year 3, year 7, or whatever that is? Again, it depends. If you're front loading your policy, supercharge, another way of saying supercharge would be front loading. If you're front loading your policy, meaning I'm putting in a lump sum, what you're doing is you're creating room such that there is no need to jump your policy. There's no need to ask for more life insurance because you have space in years 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 that you can fill with that extra growth that you put in year 1. And then when you get to a point, let's say in year 7, 8, or 9, where you know what, you've used up all the room, then you have a choice. Again, I go back to, if you can't qualify for more, you still have the leverage. Can you then open up other policies elsewhere? Use that leverage to be able to do infinite banking, meaning you have many different choices.
But if you wanted to, if this is something where you don't have kids and you don't have insurable interests, if you wanted to, could you have to get an exam in year 2 if something changed and you had some significant surge of income or an inheritance or something like that? Could you decide for yourself, not wait till the insurance decides that you would need an exam? Can you decide, you know what, I would like to put more money in here, so I know that this wasn't a part of my original plan, so this 50,000 or 100,000 that I have, I want to put it in here. So can I choose in year 2 even? Could I choose to have another exam to requalify to increase that limit?
Absolutely. And what that ultimately means is 9 times out of 10, if you were denied, it was for a reason, meaning you wanted to get approved for more and you were not approved for a particular reason. 9 times out of 10, that reason can be addressed. And once that reason is addressed, you requalify and then you get approved. So it could be weight. Like, for whatever reason, you were not approved because of weight. Well, if within the next year you address that weight, can you be approved? Because again, what did that weight cause? Maybe it caused a high reading as it relates to your blood pressure, whatever the circumstances were that caused you to not be approved. Can
Right.
those issues be addressed and then you get reevaluated? The answer is yes. Now, if you're hit with something like a cancer, that's more time-based, meaning next year, if you're cancer-free for a year, is that long enough? A lot of times I want to say it's somewhere between 3 and 5 years is what the life insurance company is looking for. But the bottom line is, just because you weren't approved doesn't mean you can't be approved at some point in the future.
Okay. We have a celebration. I just want, there's like some way of putting confetti on the screen. I don't know. We need that feature right now. Because Billy, this is pretty exciting. I think within the first like couple weeks, he already had like 6-8 grand down just by implementing the velocity banking strategy. Now, he had heard me talking about this for probably a solid year in Clubhouse and like audio. We were in the social audio spaces. And I was trying to like beat down the doors of anybody who would listen. And I was just in there going, guys, there is a better way. We can work smarter, not harder. Let's just like focus. Gotta know the steps, right? And they were like, yeah, whatever, Angelique. Okay, back to what we want to talk about. Well, then one day he was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go over and I'm going to listen to what she's talking about. I'm going to do it. And then a couple weeks later, he was like, holy cow. Now to know that $27,000 in debt in 6 freaking months is amazing. No, the wrong one. That was inappropriate. Billy would understand. You forgive me. That's amazing. $27,000 in 6 months.
But it's not the 27 for me. It's the fact that clearly he's been watching, because the second half of his comment is, need to schedule a call ASAP, because my response is going to be, now what? Like, yeah. Awesome, $27,000 of debt. But what do you do with that? Because the key piece for me is, if we aren't disciplined around the fact that we jumped over such a large hurdle and we made such progress, if we don't put that money to work, we're putting ourselves in a position to get right back in the situation we were in if we don't know where to put it. So I think you're spot on with that.
Yeah. Billy, one thing that I really admire about Billy is he's in the entrepreneurial space. So he doesn't have this steady income necessarily from
Right.
trading his time for money. He is hustling out there as an entrepreneur. And what I appreciate about this most is what he was being told to do with velocity banking specifically, right, was a huge risk for him. And for him, for his family, his wife, he's got kids, and he had to just take this like, I'm going to do this now that I can see it. So I'm pretty sure this is tracking if I'm seeing this correctly. And then like a couple weeks later, he was like, "Oh yeah, no. We are so in. Like we see it, we understand it." He says, "But right now, we just can't wrap our head around anything else. Like this is our first stage." And he was on that same like linear path, right?
Right. Right.
So now that he gets to give himself the permission to move forward and implement another piece of this strategy, now he gets to start that like shoots and ladders version of the game, right? Where you get to like hijack the game and skip ahead. So that's the power in being able to do this and that, not this then that. So yeah, congratulations.
And there's no wrong answers here. Like there are many different ways to 10, right?
Yeah. Yeah, many ways to 10. And I hope what we talked about tonight in regards to the father and daughter building the family bank, not only will this change everything for their family and for generations to come, this is something that we need to be able to see examples like this so that we know that it's possible. Miss AB had shared that she had seen somebody that she was working with come in and tell her that their parents had given them $200,000 towards their first house, towards the purchase of a home. For most people, they wouldn't even know that was like a thing that really happened. Maybe in movies, but what was it a thing that really happened? How do things like that happen? How rich must you be to be able to do that? Or do you have leverage? And I think the answer is yes to both of those, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think rich is subjective. Wealth is even subjective, especially with our last stream. If you missed it, we talked about the middle class being like 120 to $150,000 a year in income is now the middle class. Where will we be in 20 years? This is why these conversations are so important. Because imagine if we are living in this economy, imagine what it will look like for our kids, our grandkids. They will need that help. They will need the leverage. Tonight was a perfect example of a dad who woke up and said, I know that I am just right on the cusp of retirement. I know that I'll be okay, but I can see now where I could absolutely help my daughter supercharge her future and front load some of that leverage so that she will be okay. And there's a win-win here because I'll be okay too. I can leverage those same efforts. We are using the same amount of money. Nobody is making more money. We are just using information and restructuring it in a different way to get better results. And Billy did the exact same thing. $27,000 in 6 months of debt that is gone, that he is no longer paying interest on, that somebody else is not benefiting from. And he gets to keep that. And I think Nathan had some great questions in saying, like, to ask yourself, how wealthy are you? Do you have control of the money that you are putting out there? Does the money come back to you? And can you use it multiple times? Well, that's what we're teaching you here. And if you're on your wealth building journey, then you are in the right place. You are amongst friends and you are not alone. If you have not joined our Facebook community, our Facebook group, you can do that.
Did we hit 1,000 yet?
I don't know if we've hit 1,000. Maybe we have. I haven't looked. We were
That's
really
pretty
close.
awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty awesome that there's a community out there of people, like-minded individuals, because to your point around the spousal challenges, to have someone that understands what it is you're going through, to be able to bounce ideas off of, just to understand whether you're headed in the right place, even if the other people in your household may not fully understand what it is you're doing or how it is you're going about it or what some of the challenges are. So they really can't offer some of that support. Maybe they're on board with you doing it, but they don't
Right.
really understand how to help you. And so to be in a community where you can absolutely ask some of those questions and bounce some of those ideas off, I think is pretty awesome. So kudos to those of you who are in that group and some of the I'll call it the exchanges that happens inside to be able to assist each other in addressing issues.
Yep. So if you haven't grabbed that notebook, it's completely free. Also, the Velocity Banking consults are completely free. All the calls to Donnell are completely free. These are the stories and the examples that we cover here are based on true stories, and they are all from people who filled out this worksheet and booked a call with Donnell. That's the only way that we can really truly help you, because we have to know all the variables so that we can say, that's the one, that's your point of leverage, and this is something that you can do unique to your situation that we wouldn't be able to we wouldn't have been able to tell you if it was just general information that could apply to everyone, right? This particular thing doesn't apply to everyone. And that's where I think you win, is when you get to have the bird's eye view. You get to take what do I think I know about this? And then maybe it's like a goal adjustment, right? It's like attitude adjustment, gratitude adjustment, and we're doing goal adjustments. So you bring your goals, what you think your goal is, and then we'll just talk about it. I say we, but it's really you. Yeah. He and I will talk about you afterwards. We don't, no, that came out wrong. We don't judge. We don't, it's not like that. It's more like, oh, I just had this call and this
It's
is,
an excitement.
yeah.
It's what it is. Especially like this example, because I remember to a T when I went over when me and the gentleman, Cal, were having this discussion. um, when we were done, I immediately ran into our office and I said, "Hey, let me bounce something off of you because I think there's a powerful example here." And I didn't write any of it down, so I'm sharing it. I'm getting it out in space so that I can understand whether or not it even makes sense.
Yeah.
And so it's more of an excitement. It's a wow, we haven't looked at it from this perspective, or wow, there's an opportunity here to peel these layers back and take this to a place where, we've done the family bank as it relates to, mom using the insurable interest on someone that lives in the household to be able to build wealth. Like, yeah, we've done that. But wow, here's an opportunity to really, I'll call it cross pollinate, or, we combined households even, and we're using resources across household to be able to build wealth. I just thought it was pretty awesome. So
3
when it,
incomes.
right. So when it's a discuss or talk about, it's really more of a, hey, there's power in these discussions, and I want to kind of peel these layers back with someone who is not close to this information, because I need to understand whether or not I may even make sense. Because maybe my math I'm so lost in these numbers that the math may make sense, but the logic does not,
Yeah.
or the opportunity isn't what I think it might be because I'm so wrapped up in, but the math says 1 + 1 = 2,
Yeah.
so that's where that comes from. So
Yeah, and sometimes I still don't get it. I'm like, I'm not really understanding where you're going with this, so I need to see it. And I have to ask you 40 extra questions. And I do think that that forces a better understanding of the situation the more we can talk through somebody else's situation. So we talk about y'all. And I think it's great because it is more like do you think this would be a good solution for this person? Or sometimes when I dip into the calls to understand what is it that people are struggling with, so that we can choose, what to talk about here on our channel. When I do that, sometimes I ask him, like, why did you say that to them, or why didn't you mention this? Because I'm learning too. So again, the calls are with Donnell. They're not with me because I'm hella nosy, and we would just sit there and talk for 2-3 hours, and then I would probably invite you over for dinner. That's why people don't have conversations with me, and it's okay. It's okay. I'm just super chatty. It's not. It's not a big surprise. But
look, we
that's
don't
really
do
what
this
it is.
live if you weren't super chatty.
Yeah.
You talk
It's a
about something
gift.
boring. If it was just me doing the math and moving on, like, who's going to sit around and watch that? How can you turn? Because again, this example took 10 minutes. we would have been done 10 minutes. So I need you to be able to kind of stretch this out and spell this out and dig into the details and peel the layers back and understand the whys and gather questions that our audience needs, because maybe I'm not thinking about it from the perspective of our audience. And I think you do a great job of pulling in the views of the people who are watching and asking questions for the people who are watching that he may not have even realized they even needed that question. So.
Well, I think the majority of people are like, "Yep, can you please give it to us in 10 minutes? Because we're not trying to rewatch this 2.5 hour thing of you guys just shooting the shit on live live TV with everybody." Okay, so not on Facebook. Where can I get the Velocity Banking workbook? No, you don't have to be on Facebook to get the workbook or to book the call. It's just for the group. So that's it. You go to selfdirected.info/live.
Mr. Diaz is already a client. We met several times. So I think he just needs the workbook though.
Okay, yeah, here it is right there. That's it. And so you just go there and you can get the workbook for free. And a lot of the other resources, we have a ton of resources. We have 2 free books. We have a huge library of comprehensive videos that break down a lot of the frequently asked questions about the SKIA and about some of these strategies that we've talked about, comparing them to other products that you might be more familiar with. We have a ton of resources out there. It's even in audiobook form, if that's how you prefer to consume your content or your books. We have all of that waiting for you, and you get instant access, and we don't send you a whole bunch of stuff. So don't put stop when we text you the thing. We have to text you the verification. That's it. We try not to be annoying. I have a marketing background, and I know that sometimes it is required and sometimes it is a pretty normal thing. I try not to be annoying with it because what we're trying to do here is build a community. And we really would rather you be educated. And if you're interested in becoming more educated, that you let us know. And then we will respond to that. If there's some information that you are looking for and we can't get it because maybe it's slipped through the cracks somewhere, that is where those communities come in handy, because other people are able to answer those questions probably a little bit faster than we are, because we're a small team. Yep. We're a small operation.
We are they.
We are they. Yeah, that sounds very 2023.
Let's get out of here, sweetheart.
All right. Well, we like to, I was going to say something or bring something up, but I can't remember now. So I think it was about next time. I do think that if you have any ideas, if you have any suggestions on things that you would like for us to cover, we would also like to know that. So put that in the comments, whether you're here in the chat. We try to keep the chat up and alive so you can see it on the replay, or you can put it in the comments below afterwards. Either way is fine with us. But on that note, we like to end with, if you didn't come from a wealthy family,
you can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
So stay focused.
Stay protected.
Stay tuned.
Stay connected.
I'm Angelique.
And I'm Donnell.
And our goal is to help you
get self-directed.
And to do that, here are those free resources that we just talked about. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we will see you on Wednesday.
Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get self-directed.